Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh is brought to you by
Harry Freebed, Collectible Insurance Services, West Michigan Eye Care Associates, Eric Hall Aesthetic and General Dentistry, Calder Financial, Grand Management Group, Encore Business Group, and Rydan Investments.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh.
Stay informed and stay vigilant. Happy to bring back on Gavino Borquez of Chargers Wire. He previewed the game for us, did a great job because a lot of the things that he was focused on really came to light here. So I'm curious about his side of things, and his squad won and decidedly looked better than our squad here in town. But welcome to the show, Gavino, and we have a question for you. Do you have a favorite cookie?
Do I have a favorite cookie? If I were to pick one, it'd be a peanut butter cookie.
Nice. That's 2 votes for like a Nutter Butter or like a peanut butter, like a regular peanut butter cookie.
Like a peanut butter cookie, like around the holiday season, I really love like those, what are they called? The blossoms or whatever, like the one with, like, the Hershey's in like the middle.
I know what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah. Okay, that's a good pick. That's a good one here. We're celebrating National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. That's why it's not quite as random as it seemed. It's still a little random, but yeah, we're glad you're back here. It was fun. I always have fun. This is the first week with this segment being back, obviously, because it was the first game, but it's always fun to see the game from your perspective and then watch it with your perspective and watch the Chargers. I had a better knowledge of the Chargers because of talking with you, and so I'm curious what you thought. And we'll start with the matchup that you were wondering about, because I do think that was one of the most interesting matchups. You called Tesla out. He was one of the best performers on the Lions. There was basically one on the offense and one on the defense. Tesla and Rocky Sin both kind of stood out. But that matchup against the cornerbacks was tough because a lot of those Chargers cornerbacks, I feel like, did themselves a lot of good in that game here.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to start with that segment, we talk about a guy who had some reps against some undrafted free agent, Nico Reed out of Oregon, and he was responsible for the interception in the end zone. Tony Jefferson picked up the interception, but he knocked him off of his route. He was heading to the end zone, knocked him off his route, and then Tony Jefferson was there to pick him off. But Tesla was just as advertised, and again, he definitely got his own. He led the team in receiving with 2 receptions for 46 yards, targeted 3 times. So definitely very promising out of him. But, with the cornerback play, I like what I saw. And Nico Reed was definitely maybe the standout performer on that defensive side of the ball. But, again, we didn't see much. I did highlight Benjamin St. Juste as a player, but he didn't play. Trick Bridges, he played as well, too. So I think overall, we got to see a lot, and I'm sure Lions fans, they weren't very encouraged by the quarterback play. Allen was picked off twice, and then Hooker was picked off once as well, so there wasn't a lot to take away from that too. But definitely some fun matches between the wide receiver and cornerback for the Chargers.
We were just talking with somebody from Pride of Detroit here to cover the Lions side of things, and I was joking with him because we're getting a lot of the same old Lions talk, which is a very popular subject matter for a franchise that has been low for a long time. But it was just funny for it to come back on a July preseason game where we didn't see a single starter from the Lions. Not that gives any excuse for the result. The Chargers played well. They outplayed them, but it's just funny that we're getting that feedback already. So yeah, the fan base can get down quickly. Hopefully they'll have reason to get back up here once they play the Falcons. But yeah, I was impressed by the Chargers, and that Reed, you guys had highlighted him before the game as somebody that was excelling in camp. Was that just a size issue? Because that intrigues me, the size piece, because that is leading to some of these cornerbacks either getting undrafted or getting drafted too low. But that, as you well know, Gavino, that nickel role is becoming so big in the modern day NFL, and so size isn't as much of an issue with some of those cornerbacks. I get that the receivers are getting bigger and the matchups sometimes look a little wonky. We have that with Amik Robertson here, who's not a big guy, but he bodies up the big receivers pretty well. But Reed looked he didn't look small compared to Tesla. He was hanging with them every step of the way.
Yeah, because I feel like he kind of got lost in the shuffle. I mean, with the cornerback position, like you noted, you're starting to see like these nickel cornerbacks like definitely get the respect that they deserve. But, the cornerback spot, they still like favor the size and speed combination guys, and they're the ones that are some being like overdrafted or just drafted a lot higher in general. But yeah, definitely the lack of size for Nico Reed. I think he did have a pre-draft visit with the Buccaneers, I believe, but he wasn't. He knew he was going to be a late round pick at best. He wasn't invited to the combine. I think he ran a 4.48, or it was like reported that he ran a 4.48, but it was just more so like an inconsistency thing for him too. He at Oregon, I think he had 6 pass defense, 2 interceptions, but I mean he had phenomenal tape. But it was just more so like an inconsistency thing. And when you're a guy who's like 5'10", like 185, like soaking wet, like that's definitely going to drop you on these teams' boards. But again, you're definitely seeing the nickel spot. It's becoming coveted, and hopefully, Reed can earn a spot because, I highlight him for a reason. He's standing out at camp. And just a very smart player, like we talk about with eye discipline, the instincts, like that's brought up a lot in scouting reports, but you just see the way that he's able to like jump on some of these balls and he's someone that just has like that knack for the football and it can make plays. So he can stick with wide receivers of all sorts. You saw him against Tesla, who's definitely bigger than him. So definitely excited to see how he does the rest of the summer.
Yeah, man, watching him, it made me think the Lions probably were watching him going, man, we could have thrown a late round flyer at this guy or tried to make a run at him, even though the cornerback depth is better this year. But he did profile as a Lions corner as well. So I think you guys got a steal there. Speaking of steals, another guy that we talked about in the pre-process here that looked very good in that game to me too. I have to imagine that the Chargers faithful were pretty happy with Lambert Smith there because he looked as advertised in early camp, I guess.
It's something about these 5th round picks. I'll tell you, like Joe Ortiz, he hit on Cam Hart, he hit on Tarheeb Still in the 5th round, and DeAndre Lambert Smith is looking to be that 5th round still if he kind of keeps playing this way and into the season. But yeah, he had that 28-yard reception down the field. That's, it kind of highlighted his ball tracking skills, but the ability to get open. He's a fast guy, runs in the 4.3s, and you see his ability to separate. And then speaking of separating, his 15-yard touchdown, I forgot exactly who he was going up against, but he, ran his route, faked him inside, and he put him the cornerback literally on the turf and was able to find himself open too. So when you talk about this guy, the Chargers need the ones who can win down the field. But again, making yourself open that easily, it's obviously going to go in his favor. So Keandre Lambert Smith is playing his way into maybe a top 3 wide receiver role, because we talked about the retirement of Mike Williams, and like that wide receiver position is open right now. And you have Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and then and then Trey Harris, who didn't really show up as much. He got playing time, but there's some people that are already overreacting, saying that Keandre Lambert Smith is going to be better than Trey Harris, which, definitely an overreaction. But Lambert Smith is the one who's making the plays like day in, day out.
Well, that's one of the main positions I wanted to talk with you about, because probably one of the biggest compliments I saw written about Lambert Smith after the game was the fact that there is some interest, because this guy is one of my favorite receivers of all time, regardless of team. I've always been a huge Keenan Allen fan, and it seemed like a more than obvious fit for him to potentially be knocking at the door of the Chargers or vice versa. And I know there's been a meeting there, so I'm curious to get your take on that. But I saw in one of the articles on Chargers Wire that you guys were talking about how somebody was saying that was actually a different article that I read. I don't think that was on Chargers Wire, but they were saying that he could slot in as the 4th receiver. I just can't see him as the 4th receiver on the Chargers, but that's a compliment to the other guys there. But what do you have on him? I feel like that would be a good fit, because he was in division here last year, and he still looks pretty good.
Keenan Allen you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So Keenan Allen, he had a visit with the Chargers this past weekend. He was streaming. I think he was playing some video game of some sort, but he did say that the visit went really well. You know, I think it was Kay Adams who talked to Derwin James and Ladd McConkey, and the way that they sort of like answered her questions, it's kind of like not official, but it seems like Keenan Allen is going to be a Charger. I would not be surprised one bit if it's made official tomorrow or at some point this week. I don't know if they're just working out like the contract details, but I expect Keenan Allen to be a Charger. You know, it's kind of funny because he was the Chargers wide receiver one just a few years ago, and now you're looking at him like being thrown into this room. But when you look at that group, without Mike Williams, they don't have a veteran presence, and that's what they were hoping to get with Mike Williams. Obviously, the vertical guy in that room. Keenan Allen's completely different because he's predominantly in the slot. He can play on the outside, and as well as Ladd McConkey, who is seen as their slot-only guy, but he played on the outside in his rookie year, and he had like accumulated like 300-plus receiving yards, and he won consistently on the outside too. So, like, yeah, you kind of run into this. Where is everyone going to fit? How much will Keenan Allen play? Like, he's definitely not Keenan Allen like he was like a few years ago. Like, he's definitely lost a step. He's 33 years old. But they need that veteran in the room because just when you look at it right now, a lot of first, second, year receivers. Quentin Johnson too, who's still like refining his game. So I think they can learn a lot from Keenan Allen.
Hopkins and some other guys like that were available. A lot of folks around here wanted to grab those guys, but you have to consider their ability at that point in time to go from being the star to downgrading and saying, hey, I'm going to be more of a team guy. I'm going to lift the younger guys up. And if the spotlight shines on me, I'll still be ready, but I'll take a lesser role. And I can't think of anybody that better suited for that than Keenan Allen, given his personality and his ability to defer and not necessarily have the attention on him.
Yeah, so that's the thing with that. I mean, a lot of Chargers fans are expecting him to be the same guy, but like even when he was with Chicago, like you can just tell that he lost a step. You know, he's not going to be someone who wins with speed. He's going to win with like route savvy and just the ability to get open, a safety blanket on third down. That's what it seemed like he was for Justin Herbert before he left Los Angeles. And, that's what you're going to get. Like, he's not going to be playing, and I could see him on the field, like, on third downs, because if you have McConkey and Allen, like, okay, we got two guys who are really good at getting open, so something has to give there. But, it's sort of just like a filler, like a one-year deal I could see, maybe here next year as well, too. But, like, I don't see him playing that much longer, and, but at the same time, we talked about, like, you need the veterans because they do go a long way. And, like, when Ladd McConkey is the number one, but he's only in the second season, like, you just don't have that mentor in that room. But people, like, may not know, but it really just goes a long way to these players' developments. And, like, when you have two rookies in Lambert Smith and Trey Harris, like, yeah, like it'll really refine their game. And obviously the Chargers are going with this youth path with that positional room. And, on paper, like Ladd McConkey's like the only one that's proven. So Keenan Allen can still produce in some capacity.
And like you said, kind of raise the tide for everybody else there because everybody's got something to learn, even McConkey, who's been great already. But we got to take a quick break here, but I want to talk to you about who stuck out to you on the Lions side of things and who you think improved their position in addition to some of the other people we talked about here on the Chargers. But we'll be right back with Gavino Borquez. Stick with us. You're listening to Sports Intel on Jethro FM.
Sports Intel with Ryan Walsh.